Hey everybody, this is TJR, and joining me is Superfan.
Hey everybody.
Today, Superfan and I went to an antique store, and I found, to my surprise, quite a number of vintage vinyl records that I decided to pick up. I'm always a little more careful when I go to antique stores versus a record store, a used record store I trust, like say Rhino Records or Amoeba, because I know at the record store, their staff has looked over the albums. They wouldn't sell anything that they feel is scratched up or unplayable unless they marked it as such. I'm always more careful about antique stores because I don't really know the reputation of the different sellers that might be in an antique store, since many of them are like antique store malls where you've got various sellers selling different wares. But I found a couple and I wanted to share them with you. Since these are all vintage vinyl finds and are, analog, these are all going to be classic rock albums. By the way, if you're into classic rock, you might want to check out the video that Robert and I did just recently. We talked about the Rock Hall of Fame, and we asked the question, should rap, country, and other genres outside of rock be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? We both talked quite a bit, tried to have a serious discussion where we discussed both sides. Please check out that video. I'll leave a link for you. We just released it a couple days ago. But let's go ahead and check out these records here. So first up, we've got here the Eagles' first album. I've never owned this album. I've never owned it on CD. I've never owned it on vinyl. And this one here was only $5, which these days is a really good price for vintage vinyl, since, old vinyl, even old vinyl, is very expensive. And now I did notice, of course, that the cover was not in the best of shape and looked like it had suffered water damage. Let me show this to you. Also, the next two records that I'm going to show you, the seller had all the records in these really nice Mylar resealable sleeves. And I thought to myself, if this seller is willing to put even his lowest price records, because these were two of the lowest priced ones I saw there, in this kind of a sleeve, that means that this seller takes a certain amount of consideration about what records they put out there. That at the very least, they've looked at the records, made sure they're good. It tells me that they care, basically. And so, yeah, they all came. There were two that I picked up from this particular seller. Like I said, this is like an antique store mall where different sellers are, selling different things. But I noticed, of course, that the cover, of course, you can see the ring wear on it. Also, it appears there was water damage to the cover here, the way it's kind of bent forward. But the record itself, which I'll pull out for you here, this sleeve, I wondered if this was the original sleeve that it came with. It's certainly the same record label. But yeah, no, it is. It says the Eagles right there. I didn't see that at first. But you look at this side, there's nothing but just this. It's kind of like, okay. And I've never owned this album before. But let's pull out the record here real quick. And but the record itself, I looked at it. It looked very clean. Yeah, dust and dirt, but that's easy to fix. And so I thought, okay, yeah, $5. Yeah, let's check it out.
It's worth a try.
It's worth a try, yeah. And like I said, most of these days, what I'm centering on, more than newly pressed vinyl, which initially that's what I was centering on. Now I'm centering more on finding vintage used vinyl because I found a certain excitement in most cases to hearing all analog, analog sourced music played on analog equipment, whereas, that's questionable sometimes with newer releases, So anyways, though, yeah, so that's where I'm kind of leaning towards these days, is finding vintage vinyl. So I've never owned this before. I don't have anything to compare it to. So I won't be doing any kind of CD to vinyl comparison with this one here. Yeah, the cover may not be in the best of shape, but it's not in the worst of shape either. And like I said, the record itself looked pretty darn good. And yeah, here, Superfan, you want to look at it. There you go. Is there something that caught your eye?
I don't think that it's water damage. I just think that it's a little bent
Okay.
at the end.
I assumed it was water damage.
I think this will probably flatten out and not even show by the time you
Uh-huh.
once you have it up there
When it sits with the other
properly,
records, yeah, it might
I
flatten
think
out.
that'll just flatten out.
Yeah, we'll see about that, yeah. But yeah, I figured this seller, willing to put these in nice sleeves like this, obviously cares about the records and cares about what they sell as a result. So that's one little thing that just kind of went through my mind as I was looking at them. What do you see?
Kim took good care of her records, evidently.
Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, I guess Kim did take care of her records. There's a name here. The owner wrote their name on it, Kim. That's probably another reason why it was selling as cheaply as it was for the first Eagles album. Anyways, though, the next one, once again, we have the same seller here. And this was Boss Scaggs' Lido Shuffle. Oh, wait, my mistake. It's called Silk Degrees. Lido Shuffle was the hit single, but the album is called Silk Degrees. Glad I caught that before all the YouTube correctors crucify me online. Crucified by viewers like you. Let's pull this one out here. Once again, resealable sleeve. Very nice. And yeah, the shrink wrap is still partially on it. I know I've heard people say to me, oh, don't leave the shrink wrap on, it ruins them. I should probably discuss that another time. Now, but I don't really buy into that unless you were too exposed to extreme heat, in which case you're going to ruin your records anyways. This one had no inner sleeve. That's the one thing I noticed, no inner sleeve. The jacket seems to be actually in pretty good shape. Let's see if we can, yeah, a little tight. But the record itself, once again, I looked at it, dust and dirt, you know, but didn't look too bad. And only $4. So again, this is another album I've never owned. In fact, I don't really think I've ever listened to it in full, but it's one that I've been told I should listen to. And for $4, yeah, to hear it on vinyl, all analog, you know, I could stream it, sure. But yeah, I decided $4, let's give it a try. And so there we go. Boss Scaggs, Lido Shuffle. Now next, this one was from a separate seller who had all their records unbagged and had them in bins saying $9 records, $6 records, $12 records. This was from the $9 bin. And I was impressed with how good the cover looked for how old it is. The interior, it looked pretty darn good. Also, I pulled the record out. Here's the inner sleeve. It looked really good. Some wear down here, but nothing really serious, I mean, for the age, you know. But what really impressed me was how good this particular record looked. This was probably the cleanest of all the records that I found that day. This was the cleanest one. And these cardboard sleeves, man, it can be hard to get the record out without touching the vinyl. I had Superfan pick up my record butler here. I've used this product many times. Whenever it's difficult to get a record out of the sleeve, you can use the record butler here. But I looked at this one and it was very, very clean. The cleanest of all the used records I saw that day. So this is an album I've never owned, but I've pretty much heard most of it. A lot of hits off this album. And I know I've heard the album in the past, and I've always thought it was a really good album. And, you know, Robert is a big fan of Bad Company, as you know. He brought up Paul Rodgers during our discussion about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and how he felt that, you know, Paul Rodgers should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but isn't. And so here we go. Let's go ahead.
And something else to mention with the snugness of that.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like it hasn't been pulled in and out of the sleeve a lot.
That's true. If it's snug like that,
the sleeve is that clean and not damaged.
That's a good thought there. Yeah, that's highly likely in my opinion too. So yeah, this is the only record I did buy from this particular seller. But if I go back to that antique store, definitely I will go to their bins again to see what might be there.
I don't think it's an if, I think it's a when.
Just when, yeah. You're right, when it happens. So now, this was from a different seller who did package them in just actually pretty nice plastic sleeves, I think.
Just regular.
Yeah, these are new, but once again, it shows that they care a bit about it, at least to some extent. Now here it was very rough around the edges here, very rough. But it was only about $7. I mean, otherwise, very rough on the edges. Interior looked really nice. you know, overall it looks pretty good, but just a lot of wearing on the edges and the sides. Inner sleeve shows a lot of wear. But I took a look at the record, and I thought it looked pretty darn good. There we go. Yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty clean. You know, some cleaning will be necessary, but otherwise pretty good. I think we're going to do pretty good with this. Now, I do own this record on CD, or this album, I should say. I own it on CD, and this is one that I could do a CD to vinyl comparison on. And I will, of course, put this, once I clean the record, I will put it in an anti-static sleeve and just, you know, still keep the original sleeve, but not store it in it. And by the way, that one record that had no sleeve, I'm going to clean it first before I put it in any kind of an anti-static sleeve. I learned that lesson in one of my previous videos where I took it out dirty and put it in the anti-static sleeve dirty. And you don't do that. So anyways, though, that's what I'll be doing here. Okay, yeah, there's some side seam splitting here. I didn't notice this at the store, but there is some seam splitting here on the bottom. I just found this out here. And I do try to look at these things when you're at antique stores because, once again, it seems a little more iffy than going to a really good used record store like Rhino or Amoeba. You got to be more careful, I think. I also have to make sure that I look at the record label and make sure it's the actual record inside of the jacket, that's the right record. Because I've heard plenty of stories where that happens. You go to an antique store, you don't even look at the label itself and realize you didn't buy the record you thought you were buying. Finally now, we have a record that is probably physically in the worst condition of the ones I bought and ended up being the most expensive one I bought. All of these were under $10. This one was $16. And I kind of thought, I don't know about this one. I looked it up online and read a little bit about it and thought, you know, I debated it, but I decided to go ahead and get it. The cover itself is in really bad shape, so I'm going to show that to you here. This, it was in a plastic cover, though, which was good. Madman Across the Water by Elton John. Now, first of all, there's this scribbling here on the top of the owner's name. The cover itself is in really, really rough shape. I pulled the record out. I had a feeling this was a new sleeve, that the seller put it in a new sleeve because maybe it didn't have a sleeve, because this looks so pristine, the paper, and nice. Unless they barely played it, I don't know. I looked at it, and I looked at this label, and it said Uni, record label. I'm like, Uni? What is that? I've only ever, you know, I've known it to be on MCA records. So I was kind of like startled by that. I was like, what is this? You know, I did some online looking at it, and according to what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm still new to this, I'm still learning, but it looked like this is how it was the original pressing. One source said it was the original pressing. This is how it originally looked. Another source said it was Canadian. So if anybody has more information, let me know. But the record itself looked pretty good. You know, and like I said, I've learned from buying other used records where I thought, I don't know how it's going to play, and it played just fine, you know. So hopefully my eyes are getting better at that. It's just looking at them and saying, okay, this looks pretty good. But Madman Across the Water, I'm pretty sure I owned it on vinyl way, way back in the day before I ended up switching to CDs. I'm pretty sure I did. If I did, it was probably a used copy. Even back then, by the early 80s, I was already buying used records at used record stores. And then, of course, CDs too. But it looked pretty good. And I thought, okay, I would love to do a vintage vinyl to CD comparison with Elton John. And basically all the Elton John stuff that I bought on vinyl has been new pressings, which I thought have sounded really good. So I finally decided, okay. They say this is like a rare, and that was the thing. I read that this was kind of rare. This particular version was kind of rare and hard to get. The prices on it on Discogs varied anywhere from $2 to like $60, depending on condition, from what they've sold it at. Also, I noticed inside there's of course this gatefold, and there's this booklet here. I can't remember if mine had a booklet. The one I did own, if I did own it on vinyl, but there's this booklet inside that's stapled to it. And so yeah, I don't know. And if anybody out there knows more about this, please let me know. But it has the booklet stapled inside. I understand that's supposed to be rare for some reason. There's even tape on this. I just found that. I just realized that right now. There's tape on this. So yeah, this is in pretty ratty condition. This cover, but the record itself doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty good. Just needs some cleaning. I kept thinking, maybe I should wait. Maybe I can find this better, at a used record store and pay less probably for the same condition if I found it there. I do think that you pay a little bit more at antique stores than you would at a record store, but once again, when you're looking for vintage vinyl, who knows when you'll find it.
Well, I think it depends because you got some good buys fairly inexpensive.
I did get some good buys on some of these, yeah. I mean, yeah, basically I think it's because the covers weren't in the best of shape. That's had a lot to do with it. But the records themselves look pretty good. They looked okay. I'll clean them up. We'll, see how they play. I'll check them out. But yeah, overall, like I said, yeah, I did get some pretty good buys. A lot of the records I saw at the antique mall, some of them I thought were way overpriced, especially for the condition they were in, just way overpriced. And when I compared to purchases that I'd already made, like I saw a couple copies of Wings, Venus, and Mars, where the jacket and stuff was maybe a little bit better shape than the one I bought, but I paid less than $10, and they were selling these for like $22 or $20, and I thought, I think they're asking a little too much for these here. I thought to myself, yes, a lot of these I could buy these much cheaper, and a lot of those sellers I just didn't buy from. At any rate, though, so hopefully I didn't get too snowed on the Elton John one here. But like I said, as long as the vinyl plays really good, and then I'll have felt it was worth it, and I'll listen to it, and I'll see how it sounds comparatively. Like I said, I've been really finding a lot of excitement in hearing analog sourced music, played on analog equipment versus digital sourced. And I remember a while back at Amoeba, I picked up a copy of the Cars Candia, which I've never owned. And I played it, and there was just something exciting that's just like immediately that hit me. And I listened to the same album on streaming from the latest remaster. And yes, there was definitely more clarity in the streaming remastered version. But there was something exciting about, once again, hearing just analog sourced recording on analog equipment. And, it's just two different flavors, basically. And they both taste good. Anyways, though, so those are my most recent vinyl vintage acquisitions. And, just got to be careful at an antique store. I feel a lot safer going to used record stores, but hey, sometimes you find what you find. And I was not expecting to find this much, really. In fact, when we walked into that antique store, I was surprised to find anything at all, and it turned out to be just so much was there that
we went through like half the store.
Yeah, I got overwhelmed by it all and said, okay, that's enough. When I realized I was at about roughly $40 worth of stuff, I said, okay, that's it. You're done. It's all you're spending. And walked out.
Yeah, there were probably 4 or 5 more booths there.
Yeah, there was a lot more still there. It was in the city of Orange, and it was quite the antique mall, and the first time I'd ever gone in there and taken a look. And yeah, quite a bit. So it's definitely we'll probably go there again.
Orange Circle Antique Mall, if you're wondering.
Yeah, Orange Circle Antique Mall. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's on the south side of the circle on the west side of the street.
Easy to look up online, I'm sure. If you live in the area or you're planning on coming out to that area and you want to take a look. But those were the buys, and so I've got some albums that I've already heard that I want to compare, and I've got some albums that I've never heard, and I want to check. I'm going to be checking those all out. It should be fun and exciting. Okay, I am back. Since turning off the camera, I have taken each one of these, I've given it a cursory cleaning and played a little bit of each one, just kind of got a feel for how it sounded. And I'm going to go over my findings here. So first of all, starting with Silk Degrees here, which, by the way, it is there. The title is right there, but it is kind of hard to see. On this one here, and I spent $4 on this album, just wow. Wow. I could not get over how good this sounded. Now, first of all, just on a noise level, yes, some snap, crackle, and pop at the beginning, which I always kind of expect on a used record, that there's going to be a little bit of crackle and then it's going to fade away. And that's what happened. A little bit of crackle at the beginning and then it fades away and then nice and quiet. But the reason I'm saying wow is just how beautiful it sounded, the lushness of it. I know I've never really listened to this record. I've never owned it. I've heard some of it over the years, but playing it on the stereo, on the turntable, it was so lush and beautiful sounding. Wow. So yeah, great $4 investment. Really great. The Eagles record here, again, a little bit of snap, crackle, and pop at the beginning. Not as much as, you know, the Boss Scaggs record, not as much, but a little bit, and then quiet and clean after that. I didn't feel quite as much wow, although it sounded good. Nice and tight and clean, you know, after the initial crackle, you know, and sometimes you get a little crackle in between tracks during the quiet part. No big deal. But I didn't hear as much analog wow. I don't have a CD to compare it to. Maybe later I might compare it to a CD. Maybe I should just compare it to hi-fi. Now that Tidal is hi-fi now, it's all hi-fi. It's all high resolution. Maybe I should compare it to the streaming version, the remastered streaming version, and see what I think. I might get a pretty close idea, maybe, hopefully, I don't know. But it still sounded really good, though I kind of suspect that the CD might sound about the same from what I was hearing. I didn't feel as much analog wow, but then again, I could completely change my mind once I hear a CD version, but I've never had this on CD. But still sounded really good. So yeah, I mean, good $5 investment. It was very hard. Once I cleaned it and put it in an anti-static sleeve, it was very hard to get it to fit into its sleeve here. It's very tight. So I just put the original sleeve and I put this on the back like that. And I know a lot of people actually do put away their records this way. For easy access, I always feel a little weird and funny about it that it's not inside of its sleeve, but for this one I'm gonna have to do that. Maybe I'll get over that because I know a lot of record collectors do that and they have no issues with it at all. So now, yes, close to the edge. This one, once again, a fair amount of snap, crackle, and pop at the beginning, and then quiet. And I listened to it, and even once we got to some of the quieter passages in the first track, which has a lot of quieter passages, even moments of silence, clean, nice and clean sounding. Yeah, this is about $6 or $7. It sounded really good, though I want to do a CD to vinyl comparison. I'll probably do that at some point, hopefully in the near future. I do want to do a comparison. I kind of felt like also, like I might find that there's not much difference between it and its CD counterpart. But like I said, when you do an A to B, it can totally change your mind about it. But it did sound good, nice and clean, just some snap and crackle at the beginning. Very good. Bad Company, this album here, Desolation Angels, which by the way is this is one of the few Bad Company albums I don't own. I owned two of their other albums in super deluxe CD editions, but I've never owned this one. And this was what I expected. This was the cleanest record I found. I put the needle on, no snap, crackle, and pop at the opening like I'm used to hearing. Nice and clean throughout. You know, pretty, you know, maybe a little tiny click here and there, but nothing really to really get excited about or worried about. Yeah, this is what I expected. I expected it to sound really clean, and it did. It was a very clean record. And I have no CD to compare this to, but very pleased. I like the sound of it. There was more of that analog wow on this one as well. So that was really pleased with that one. So finally, the most disappointing of these vinyl vintage purchases was the one I spent the most on, and that's Madman Across the Water. Now, once again, still learning. Based on my previous experiences buying vinyl records that are dusty, dirty, and then cleaning them and then listening to them, I felt like, okay, the record looks like it's in pretty good shape. Now, I played this one. I heard the snap crackle that I expected to hear at the beginning, but then it never stopped. There was just snap and crackle throughout. You know, I listened to more and it just kept going. If I objectively listen and hear it, try to hear it without that snap crackle just in my mind, it is beautiful sounding. It really is. And I'd probably be feeling a lot of analog wow, but the snap, crackle, and pop just being nonstop just made it impossible and made it unlistenable, really. I will not be keeping this. I honestly can't sell this on eBay in good conscience unless I specifically state in the listing, lots of snap crackle. If you've got a good record cleaner, like one of those sonic cleaners, then maybe you want to pick this up and clean it and try it. I don't have one of those expensive cleaners, so I can't do that. I don't even use that manual disc washing cleaner. I just clean, the spin wheel one, you know what I'm talking about. I just clean manually with like an anti-static brush, dry clean. I'll put the record on at the highest speed possible. I'll dry clean, maybe I'll do one or two, maybe I'll do some manual cleaning as well and just remove specks. Very rarely will I use any liquid. Though I did on this one a little bit because I saw a part that looked particularly grungy and I did clean that spot off, but still, didn't make any difference. Just real snap crackly throughout. So a big disappointment. I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm not gonna keep it. And it's not even worth doing a vinyl to CD comparison because it wouldn't be fair. So biggest disappointment of the lot. To quote Billy Bob Thornton in the movie Bad Santa, they can't all be winners, kid. Otherwise, though, I was very pleased with everything, really, to varying levels. And with, of course, the real big jump for joy being the one I spent the least amount of money on. Go figure, So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for joining me on my vinyl journey as I continue to grow and learn and appreciate a format that I was only briefly exposed to in my youth before CDs came along. As always, if you like what I do here, be sure to click like, click subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And if you'd like to give a little extra support and help me with this channel, please consider going to my Patreon page, patreon.com/TJR the original. Pledge whatever you can. Patron supporters receive early access to select videos and exclusive videos every week that nobody else gets to see. And if you can't be a patron supporter, that's okay. Just click like and share these videos with anyone you think might be interested. Also, be sure to check out the video that Robert and I did earlier this week discussing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Should rap and country music artists be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you again, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy.